Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about the Virginia governor's race and the New Jersey governor race. And obviously these two races have already happened. I'm filming this on Thursday, and it will go up today as well. And the election happened on Tuesday, and we got results back for the Virginia gubernatorial election around early Wednesday morning. I was actually up watching it. And I knew early on, as you all that follow me on Instagram know, that I projected the race around 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for the Virginia gubernatorial election. And the reason I hadn't filmed this video yet is because I just recently called the state of New Jersey at the time that I'm filming this for Phil Murphy. So something I want to point out in this is today, the current governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, and Governor-elect Glenn Youngkin met to ensure a smooth transition of power. And I think this is something that both parties can appreciate, is that Glenn Youngkin will start out on a good hand, and will have a person to ask questions to, shall we say, in the process of him transitioning into the governor's mansion and becoming governor of Virginia. And I think that's something that we can all appreciate. And we can all appreciate the record number of turnout for the Virginia gubernatorial election. I'm going to talk about this race a lot more because I am in the state of Virginia, and I think it's more of a focused race at this point. But I am going to talk about New Jersey as well. But the first thing that I want to point out is that Glenn Youngkin won 50.9% of the vote to Terry McAuliffe's 48.4%. Glenn Youngkin won this race by a pretty solid margin, honestly. And I think it's a lot higher of a margin than many people expected in the race, honestly. And going back down to poll numbers for a second. So the last poll conducted remained the same of the last one that I filmed, I believe, that went up. And it had Glenn Youngkin up by 1 point, and the one before that had Terry McAuliffe up by 3 points. So pollsters were okay in this election, shall we say. Fox News predicted that Glenn Youngkin would win by 8 points, and we can tell that did not happen. But Glenn Youngkin almost made it to 3 points, beating Terry McAuliffe, but he did not. He was a little under 3 points, but he still had a solid victory for a Republican in the state of Virginia. And I think that's something that we can all look out at, is that the Democrats need to change their strategy if they expect to win in 2022. The midterms are going to look horrible if they do not change their strategy and start working for average day Americans, really, because the majority of the people do not see Democrats working for them. And that's part of the reason that Glenn Youngkin won this race. And it's honestly very interesting because Glenn Youngkin had record turnout, and so did Terry McAuliffe, but Glenn Youngkin did as well, and Glenn Youngkin obviously performed the better campaign because he ended up winning. But another thing to look at is the lieutenant governor's race. I don't have this pulled up on my screen, because I was afraid I would have too many tabs, but I am going to talk about this. The lieutenant governor's race was won by Winsome Sears, the Republican as well, and she won by a pretty solid margin. She's the first woman to serve as lieutenant governor, from my knowledge, in the state of Virginia. And then we also are going to talk about Jason Miyares, who is the next Attorney General of the state of Virginia, also a Republican. Republicans really blew out in Virginia. Jason Miyares is the first Hispanic person, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, to serve as Attorney General in the state of Virginia. So there's a lot of diversity, and a very cool thing that happened in the Virginia gubernatorial, Virginia lieutenant governor's race, and the Virginia Attorney General race. And I think this is a really cool moment for Republicans, but I do think the Democrats should learn from this and say, okay, we're going to have to up our game for 2022. But this race was very interesting, really, because it started off Terry McAuliffe was going to win easily. Then it started narrowing, and then it was like Glenn Youngkin's going to win, and then it was like we don't really know what's going to happen. I know for me, I had already made my prediction at this point that Glenn Youngkin would be the next governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. But I seen a tweet, I believe it was, around 3 p.m. on election day, and I seen it say something to the extent that there was record turnout in this election. And at that moment, I was very questionable on who would win it, really. And polls and things started coming in after 7 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesday, and we found out that Glenn Youngkin would be the next governor of the state of Virginia. But that's not even all. Republicans got three state wins, and that's a record because that hasn't happened in 12 years in the state of Virginia. But they also flipped the Virginia House of Delegates. So this is going to make Glenn Youngkin a little bit easier to pass legislation. So the Democrats did pick up, or did not pick up, I'm sorry, the Republicans did pick up seats in the House of Delegates, and, they're going to take control of it. And it's very, very interesting, really, that the Republicans won the House of Delegates, they won the lieutenant governor, they won the attorney general, and the gubernatorial election. It's a record for Republicans, really, and it should scare Democrats, ultimately. But going to the New Jersey race, Phil Murphy did win the state of New Jersey. However, this race was much, much closer. And as you can tell, there's still results still coming in. But I'm still going to film this video. And, this race was much closer than anyone had expected. And this should also scare Democrats because the state of New Jersey was won by Joe Biden by 14 plus points in 2020. Virginia was won by 10 plus points, but this just shows that in 2022, states that Joe Biden won by 10 plus points aren't safe anymore. And that the Democrat is going to have to get out and campaign because Democrats are not popular in today's age. And, Democrats are blaming this on different things, on why the Virginia governor's race did not go in their favor. And I think that's ultimately just something that we can't look at now. We're going to have to wait. But Glenn Youngkin did make a strategy known, and that's in a state that Joe Biden is not popular in, while still accepting Donald Trump's endorsement. Do not take it overboard. Glenn Youngkin did not campaign with Donald Trump in person, in an in-person event, and I don't know that he campaigned with him in general, but he definitely did it in an in-person event. And the factor that Glenn Youngkin didn't do that is ultimately a sign that this could help other Republicans come 2022 in those midterms. In states that, a Democrat may think that a Republican can't win in, but they can. They have to be careful with Donald Trump. And that's something that I think a lot of people can take away from this election is Donald Trump is still there. However, people don't want to hear about him. Terry McAuliffe made his whole campaign about how Glenn Youngkin was a replica of Donald Trump. And that simply was untrue. That was false. Very false, honestly. And the factor that it was made about that was sad. And it ultimately showed Democrats that strategy does not work. And it should show them that going into 2022 that you cannot base a campaign on my opponent's Donald Trump 2.0. It doesn't work. And that should ultimately just show Democrats, hey, this strategy isn't working for us. We're going to have to change to something else. But a bit more about the Virginia gubernatorial election is what is 2025 going to look like? Because that's the next governor's race in the state of Virginia, and a lot of Democrats are worried about the future of Virginia. So what's 2025 look like? And ultimately to that, I would say we have to wait till 2024 comes, because depending on who wins the presidency in 2024 could ultimately change who wins the governorship in 2025 in the state of Virginia. If a Republican wins in 2024, I'm not saying it's impossible for a Republican to win the governorship. I think it's very possible, but it would be a lot harder of a fight, and I think Democrats would be more likely. However, if Democrats contain the White House in 2024, then Republicans are most likely going to win the governor's race again in 2025. Because the only time that didn't happen was in 2013 with Terry McAuliffe, and you can obviously tell that Terry McAuliffe did not do a good job in this campaign in changing that. So this race is over. There's nothing to change about it. Glenn Youngkin won by a pretty solid margin, honestly, and that's just the factor of it, is that Glenn Youngkin was approved of and was liked by many more Virginians than Terry McAuliffe was. And I look forward to seeing how his administration continues forward and working with the Northam administration, ensuring a smooth and easy transition of power for him. I applaud Northam for doing that, ensuring that smooth transition that makes Virginians a lot in a better place, really, so that Glenn Youngkin can pick up on day one and start working. But I appreciate you all for watching today's video. I don't have a lot to say about the New Jersey race because obviously we can't look at it too much because there's still 5% of the vote still out there. But this is my final really race of 2021. I might film one more focusing on New Jersey again. I don't know for sure though. And now it's time to start focusing on those midterms and primaries in the midterms. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, and turn your post notifications on so you get notified anytime I post a new video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I appreciate it.